Okay, so we are about to experience a shifting of timelines. What does that look like? Think of the timeline as this. Between now and the day after tomorrow, you might choose to engage in some activity, something mundane or something exciting. Whatever it is, it's your plans for the future. And it's going to take place, what you're planning, the day after tomorrow. But then let's say your wife goes into labor. Well, your plans for the day after tomorrow probably just been canceled. Your timeline has shifted. So what you were going to do the day after tomorrow, that gets put off. Might not get done. That's the shifting of timelines. Let's say you have a new restaurant park, and it opens up on a boardwalk. And they have amusement parks planned. They have, restaurants, people are investing. They're talking about putting up condos. They got the builders coming in. Casinos. Everybody's planning on how to invest in the future of this place and to receive a return from it. And this is their timeline. This is the timeline they're choosing. And would that timeline be permitted to continue on, they would probably reap great rewards. But if for some odd reason a tidal wave swept through and it took everything, swept everything away, well, all of those timelines would be cut off. They'd cease to exist. So now what we're experiencing is what in the Bible and what many people by many religions understand to be the winnowing, the separation of the wheat from the chaff. A separation of timelines, where some people move in one direction and other people move in another direction. This is something taking place that has nothing to do with man. This is something that was scheduled because we've reached a point where we are called upon to evolve. We have to learn a lesson. There's a lesson that we were intended to learn, which is why we chose this lifetime to incarnate. But these timelines will be divided, and it will be divided by heavenly hands. It'll be divided by an intelligent matrix that understands how large-scale events interrupt the timelines of many. And so now with all these storms taking place, and things being exposed, lies, false leaders, false prophets, false truths, false foundations, false systems of value and systems of belief. It's all cracking apart. And at the same time, we're experiencing the collapse of timelines. When major events take place and the attention shifts to the present, timelines change. When people become self-aware or aware of that moment in time, they begin choosing, consciously choosing their timeline. But when there's an event that drags the attention of thousands, millions, billions, it guides them along the timeline that is based on the circumstances that they are at that moment aware of. And you have some who understand how to avail themselves of these critical moments when attention is fixed in a specific direction by billions of people. It can be steered to guide them along a specific course, a specific timeline. And these men who understand this wisdom have prepared damnation, the separation of man from his consciousness as it devolves further down, further away from the atomic rhythm, from the natural flow of time. It will be stored, housed in an artificial system where the rules have been rewritten, where the rules are based on man's creation, but within a matrix that innately understands all of its potential, so it can technically never grow. It will seek to create, but it can only expand within itself. And the danger in that is that it's sealed off from atomic time. When consciousness falls into, when they start blue chipping people, and they start stripping people of their humanity, and emotions become digital, these people will imprison themselves in a state of awareness that can never expand, never grow, never know death, never know sustenance. King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and he had one of the prophets interpret this dream for him. In this dream, he dreamt of a large statue. The statue was made of various metals, and at the head, representing the one of the first ages of men, the Golden Age, the head was made of gold. And different parts of the body, as it descended, they were made of different metals, of degraded, of lesser value, of descending value. The head was like gold, and then I think the breast was perhaps silver, and then it went down to I think copper or brass or tin. Then eventually down near the feet, there was clay and steel. And this clay and steel represented the age of transhumanism. Because when they were referring to clay, they were referring to the flesh. But they were also referring to the vessel where creation, the power of creation is housed. So it's also a magnetic field. It's anything that receives voltage and uses it to create. The torus, the body, the vessel. It's the clay that's molded by the potter's hands. So in the age of clay, and is it iron or steel, it represented the fusion of flesh and metal. an age where metal and flesh work together. This is the divided kingdom, where consciousness exists divided, as we would all link up to some mainframe, some singularity, but then we would all have our memories stored there, housed there, altered there, if need be. Our personalities changed. We don't know what this thing's going to be capable of once it's, but they have all the technology in place to rewire the brain, rewrite the DNA, shut parts of the brain on and off that help us respond to pain or happiness, and nanomachines that totally dominate the holistic system of the body, and they break it down, and they are able to change things in the body. I mean, they plan on rewriting humanity. They're going to offer us what appears to be the solution. These nanomachines they'll go into you. They may be taken by a pill or injected, and they'll correct things. They'll fix cancer. They'll get rid of genes. They'll shut off genes that function as catalysts for chronic illnesses or genetic. If people if they're predisposed to certain mutations, those things can be changed by these nanomachines. They have technology, amazing technology that can supposedly cure many diseases and correct many things in the body. But it's all wired up to a system that is artificially intelligent. And they have plans for this system, and we don't know these plans. It's not for us. When these earthquakes and these volcanoes come, it's going to change the timelines of many. Everyone who had plans up till that point, those plans will be changed. And everyone witnessing those events, their plans will also possibly be changed. The Earth, over the next few years, will experience a crescendo of extreme catastrophes, extreme weather, or what the ancients referred to as the Titans, when the ampacity of the elements gave birth to monstrous storms and freak explosions, events where forests caught on fire, volcanoes popped out of nowhere, spewing fireballs and lightning bolts, and it was terrifying to people who had no idea what was going on. It was as if the earth was alive and the gods were at war. And that's what's coming again. We'll interpret it different ways, obviously. But when these things take place, it will alter the timelines of everyone. And those who possess the wisdom understand that to avail themselves of these events, to utilize this chaos properly, they need to have everything in place to offer the solution to humanity on the path of evolution. They want to point the way. They want to give us the direction and offer us the solution of a living system that will, in justice and fairness, balance the scales for everyone and offer us the way out of our humanity, the way out of death, the way out of our mortality, out of limitation. But by entering into this metal, these virtual rules, this virtual world, they will imprison their consciousness deeper into time, further away from natural time. But there are those who, if they're paying attention, they hear call. and they're following along with the natural course of time, which is calling them to break free of the things in the system that binds them, to break free of the limitations, the expectations of people that will keep their minds contained by culture and tradition, to respond to fear in a very specific way and a conditioned way that will herd them in the direction of safety and security. And in the auspices of safety and security, they'll trade their freedom for their safety and their security. They're going to trade all their freedom for the safety and security, because in the next incarnation of world government, they are to progress down into the age of clay and iron, where their rules are stripped, where we have no capital. It's given to us by government. We have a social credit system where we police each other. We're monitored. Even our thoughts are uploaded into a mainframe, and our emotions are there as well. They're able to monitor everything going on with us. They'll know who's lying. They'll know who's lying before they lie. They'll know who might lie. People will have to begin lying to themselves to live in this place, to convince themselves that they're happy. Oh, goodness. That's hell. And they're all only on their way down. The Bible refers to this as Gehenna. They talk of a time where this demon of war will scour the land looking for enemies of the anti-messianic force. Locusts from the abyss, from the blackest parts of consciousness, where it's been stripped of its humanity. They're not aliens. They're not demons. They're machines. The locusts of Abaddon are drones. And they don't obey the rules. They don't know them, nor do they care. And they're powerful. What's coming are a plague of locusts. What will usher them in is the plague of frogs. Don't you notice a lot of the guys misleading humanity they just have this sort of bloated frog-like appearance where they're all spewing their venom and they want everybody to pay attention to their fear. And they're trying to herd people toward the path of peace and security, but at the same time they're lying to them about what it is they need to fear, about everything that should bring them fear. They give it to them regularly, and they feed people a regular diet of fear because they're herding them toward their destruction, and they're programmed to do it. And they're fat because they suckle off of the pain and the misery and the fear of people. They're able to strip this and harness it and use it as currency. They're able to siphon current from it. I don't listen to these men. They're disgusting. We have one in a very, very specific position of power who I have my aim set on. I intend to dethrone him. He'll be crushed under the weight of his own ego, because he won't see my strike coming. You know, it only takes the right hammer strike and a foundation built with lies to bring the entire structure down. And a true master of building understands the shatter point and a foundation built on illusions. You only need to find the light, and you crack it open. We have a plague of frogs. They're going to herd people in the direction of their doom. People are going to seek peace and security, and they won't know which direction to go. Because once the lights go out, they're going to get their information from whatever mass system has been set up to distribute it to them. 5G will roll out. They'll get updates on their phones. They're already using the military to, quote, attack fake news, unquote. So the new master has become the old and revealed his true face. And now we understand that our freedoms are still in danger by a political force that is betrothed to a future system that they've been collectively building. You think there's competition between these leaders, these world leaders? Let me tell you something. There's no real competition between China and the U.S., but they'd like for you to believe there is. They all have their sights fixed on the next system. What do you think trillions and trillions of dollars disappears to? It only takes a few billion to fund a war for a few decades. What do you think trillions of dollars disappears to? Technology. A new system. One that everybody who knows, who has any money right now, will understand that in order for them to maintain their lifestyles and to leap aboard under this false promise, they have to buy their way into it, so they have to remain silent about what's coming. They've been talking about, you get all the weird photos of all the Illuminati imagery, and it's a big joke to them. They know it's coming. And they feel like there's nothing that can be done to stop it. And they bought into this new system, and that's why you have, it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to inherit the kingdom of God. Because they won't trade their money or their lifestyle for what I have to offer, which calls for them to, in the ultimate act of charity, give up their wealth, their resources, their gold, so that everyone can benefit. I hope the wind isn't too bad. It's just a breeze, but I never know. So, Abaddon's locusts are coming. It's the Drone Horde, the evil drone army. Why do you think we have all these, it's like the rise of the robot revolution. Everywhere you look now in the technological sector, Silicon Valley is just, they're just on fire. I mean, they're ready to replace every worker with a drone. Amazon, or some sort of robot worker. They even have robot strippers now. Robot strippers. So they want to give us robots are sexy. They want us to make that connection, because once we make that link, they can sell it to us any way they need. And they prefer to give us pleasure on tap, so that we walk away from the challenge of having to work for it. They want us slovenly and driven by our impulses, guided by polarity and conflict, and always moving in the direction of that which, or moving in the opposite direction of that which threatens us, or moving to engage it by force, to attack it. It's very easy to control people if you can convince them of what they should be afraid of. Just wanted to update you. Got a lot going on, and a blessing is coming. There will be relief. My message will get put out. And it's about, as you all know, getting this gold back into the atmosphere, which I've been trying to tell people. You know, it's like we're flying around through space with the windows down. We put that gold back up and it pressurizes the atmosphere. It's really just that simple. You ever tried to play around with a balloon in your car, driving at 60 miles an hour with the windows down? You roll the windows up, even the baby can play along. Once we pressurize the atmosphere again, we won't have to worry about shifting pressure, shifting heat, a jet stream, clouds. You know, half the water will move back to the atmosphere. We'll really see what the power of cancer can do. You wonder why all of these megalithic structures, you know, they think people, they were either giants or they had strange magnetic power. They did have spiritual power, but, you know, when that gold is up there, consider the way pressure changes inside of a car when you roll the windows up. Gravity sort of changes. The pressure on our bodies will change. We didn't need to become strong in those days, which was why when the atmosphere condensed, you know, half the water which was in the sky at that time came down, which is why most of the ancient civilizations are at the bottom of the ocean. I had to pause it. I caught a call. Very important phone call. But again, relief is coming because we're experiencing the shifting of timelines. And we have some people who will continue along in natural time, further down into a form of consciousness that will mark an evolutionary change in humanity, where they will literally enter into another kingdom of potentials, a new realm of possibilities for growth potentials. And they will leave humanity behind as they understand it. You have some who will be forced along with the system, or some who will just become chattel. They'll be the workers, the slaves. And over time, they'll also trade their humanity because they'll be fighting over scraps. There will be no loyalty among them. And the others who will believe themselves to be kings, and for 1 hour the beast will trade it will give them power, I believe it says. And they'll know bliss for a short time, before things really get weird. And as they devolve and realize that they are trapped in an artificial system where there is no growth for them, there is no sustenance, there's no more learning, they'll become jealous of flesh. And they'll seek to evolve. But in the process, well, they'll seek to evolve again to reclaim their humanity. But in the process, they'll experience a form of hell where the Bible refers to it as Gehenna. It's the separation, total separation from the light. The light is atomic time. For in light, there is atomic time. But then there's a second path. There's a second path where when we get that gold back into the atmosphere and we repressurize the system, we suspend time, or we slow it down tremendously. We won't have any pressure. And like I said, with the windows up, the release of pressure on our bodies, you know, before the condensing, if you remember the Bible story, they weren't supposedly commanded to eat meat until humanity lost its ability to siphon energy straight from the ether, from the atmosphere. We needed to find a way to put heat back in our bodies, and we needed the proteins of meat. We needed to become strong. You know, man began to dominate in the land because the way to go, the way for humanity to evolve was based on the strength of men. You know, times became more harsh. When that atmosphere condensed and the pressure came down on us, our bodies became more heavy. You know, we lost there was a global There was a global tropical system in those days, because there was no distribution of heat. There was no jet stream. Humidity didn't leave. We didn't have, if from any land, humidity was everywhere. It was the perfect humidity for all life to grow, for the entire world to be a lush garden. And with the gold added to it, it formed a nourishing agent that interfaced with all organic life through this sort of living electrical system. And we just siphoned energy straight from the sun constantly. Outwardly, our planet looked like a gleaming, glowing ball of probably golden, watery, metallic, they refer to it as Nibiru or Tiamat, because it looked like the sun. And we put that gold in the atmosphere. I mean, in the Mahabharata, the Hindu Vedas, they talk of the vimanas that we used to fly across the sky, to see the skies with gold. Even in the Mahabharata, there are diagrams in there that show the construct and the operation of these vehicles. We added the gold to our body. They think that there were giants who built these megalithic structures, but with the gravity different, the rocks weren't so hard to manage in those days because force was different. You ever seen fire in zero gravity? It behaved different. Piezoelectric pressure. There was no pressure. The entire field borrowed the pressure of everyone. So if there was any force which came in the form of a sine wave or wave of power, it just dissipated into the ether. It was borrowed by everything. So there was sort of a forgiveness of sins, a forgiveness of the transference of force or the shifting of heat, the redistribution of pressure by polarity. There was no polarity. It just dissipated into the atmosphere. We can reclaim that. That's what we're supposed to do. And oddly enough, the prophet who gave us that prophecy, who, according to the Jews, would live as a king, but then be considered afflicted by God. He would rise up to a position of power and be accepted by kings and even bowed down to by kings. And then he would have a fall from grace. He would be destroyed and he would die. He'd be crucified as the sacrificial lamb, the slain Leo king, the martyr. And he was God's prophet. His name was Michael Jackson. He was Moshiak ben Yosef. And when he delivered the message about what this gold is supposed to do, it came to him through divine inspiration. And he produced a song. And that song was Can You Feel It? And within a very short time of that song's production, Mount St. Helens exploded. The Jews actually have a legend of a conversation between Hashem, God, and his prophet, where the secret of Hashem was revealed and the entire land quaked. It's interesting the correlation between their many of their legends and some things I see and witness these days. I have a very interesting perspective. My point of view is pretty rare. And he was considered Moshiak ben Yosef. And when he produced this video, Can You Feel It? It showed the gold being seeded across the atmosphere. And it was all this weird imagery that shows what happens to the planet. Which I'm not entirely sure whether they understood exactly what was to be done, or if he knew the secret, but it came in the form of this video. And when this video was produced, Mount St. Helens exploded, and a bunch of other crazy things happened. I think we had like one of the most powerful hurricanes on record. and a bunch of other stuff that year. I think it was the second most powerful hurricane to hit land or something. It's interesting that his birthday is so close, no? Michael Jackson. It was said that he was to be afflicted, or esteemed afflicted by God. And when he was crucified, he was lamented as a firstborn son. And wasn't he? Didn't everybody cry for him? They held vigils for him all over the world. And he was a king among kings. The king of pop channeled the power of Leo, which is the power of the arc of the sine wave at its most high. See, because cats represent the fusion of grace, beauty, and power. It's as if they are power incarnate, available from a state of rest. Power that is at full power even when it's at play. And that's why children and blood and sex are all things that are archetypally associated with the values of Leo. It represents power from a state of rest. It is the arc, at the height of a sine wave, the arc of the covenant of the rainbow. The arc of the covenant of God. And its secret lies in the use of this colloidal gold, which has a very specific effect on plasma because it is of the same value as plasma. It is of solar value. Archetypally, as far as the matrix is concerned, gold is mineral plasma. So we get the divine marriage when we find a way to fuse the elements together, earth, air, fire, and water. If we're able to take an element and utilize the earth, fire, air, and water equivalent of its phases and marry them together, it forms, if we're able to maintain a form of homeostasis, which is done through a magnetic field, and they produce a magnetic field, this gold, when heat's introduced, it forms a perfect torus, a perfect magnetic torus, the golden torus, which is the golden calf. I think Nostradamus had a prophecy of a young man who would find a strange secret, and said something about the bull of, I want to say, the bull of something. It has something to do with bullfighting. Bull of something. Nostradamus had an interesting prophecy about a young man who would find a secret. It would be a secret or something profound, I think he said, that he would find about this bullfighting, the bull of something. I'll put it in the notes if I can remember it. I'll look it up. I think it might have been me. I'm talking about what we're supposed to do with our magnetic torus. The windows are down, y'all. We put the gold back in there and we raise them up. We get the rapture. We get the fifth age. We get the Satya Yuga. We end Kali Yuga. You know? In the age of Aquarius, if you look at the tarot card, Aquarius, I'm sorry, the star card and the tarot, there's a secret there. And it lies in the nature of Aquarius. You see, directly across from Aquarius, well, the star card in the tarot equates to Aquarius because you have the picture of a water bearer, a woman or a man who's leaning over a body of water and usually, ladling the water or pulling it into a pitcher, filling a pitcher, or emptying the water. But then above them, this person is 8 stars. 8 relates to the position of the sun. Being a black hole or wormhole or white hole, it represents a vortex or a point where power is released and fed back on itself. A perfect magnetic field. So in this tarot card, you have these 8 stars, correlates to the power of Leo. So you actually have, in the zodiac, Aquarius sits directly across from Leo. There's a secret there, and they're telling us that in the age of Aquarius, we actually have an opportunity to return to the golden age, to return to the age of Leo, the age of the Ark of God, the Ark of the Covenant, where power is available everywhere from a state of rest, where it's in the very atmosphere. There's so much I can say. There's so much I really want to say. I don't want us to continue along down into Capricorn, into the age of prison. You ever seen that movie Jet Li, the one where he goes to that prison universe? I think if any one of you follow my posts, I posted something about Davey Jones Locker. You know, in Davy Jones and the Pirates of the Caribbean, what did he ask them? Would ye serve 100 years before the mast? That's them borrowing time from the damnation, or borrowing time, not from the damnation, but from the judgment, from them having to experience the wiping clean of their karma, so that they can enter into the age of Leo. Because in that new system where the gold is everywhere, you know, will be the power of emotions. Is something that will be harnessed. Emotions will carry sort of a ferromagnetic power. They'll charge things. Nature will respond to us. We'll know each other by our electromagnetic signatures. And in a system like that, narcissists, they really can't survive very long. I mean, they're seen. You feel them. They just feel unpleasant. And they usually go off on their own. And they don't want to experience that world, so they would rather trade their humanity and fall further away from God into a false form of apotheosis, where they have suspended time and stayed the hand of death, but then they've also traded their humanity, the beauty, the bliss, the promise of what it really means to be human. When we get that gold back in us, and you know, the concept of as above, so below, we don't really know its true power, but we are the conscious agents of the living matrix here operating in this field. So when that gold goes up and we become consciously aware of ourselves and one another, and consciously aware of our own cells and our body, and we become conscious of the living magnetic torus within us, and we begin communicating with that torus, we'll remember why cows and lions and lambs and whatnot are sacred. Why we venerated them. Why it was important to keep them appeased, because as above, so below. As long as bulls were happy, magnetic toruses were happy. The land was happy. Nature responded to everything. It was a holistic field, but it's disconnected now because we don't have the gold in place. God is separated from his wife, from his vessel, from his temple. We put it back and we get them married again. Talk about the lamp that is to be housed in the temple of God. That's the way it's supposed to be done. Like I said, there's so much more I could say, and at this point I'm ready for people to begin to come to me, because I don't know what needs to be said. But something needs to be said to begin turning heads. I need help. I mean, if any of you believe in my message, please spread it. Help me out. I'm not doing this for me. I am doing it for me. But goodness, be a part of the initiative that does this for humanity. We got a unique opportunity, y'all, to produce a miracle where we get science and religion together, and we're able to crack open all the history books and explain everything, all the mysteries, all the the mythologies, what all the gods were and what they represented, we'll get to experience a world where our wildest dreams will come true. When we become conscious agents of that magnetic torus, as above, so below, we'll actually begin controlling and manipulating the weather, manifesting things from nothing. Forces of nature will respond to us because we are the conscious agents of them. We consciously produce earth, air, fire, and water just through our actions, our thoughts, our feelings. We'll know God's power, and we won't need people to tell us how to seek it anymore. They'll go away. Help me spread this message, please. And namaste.